Gentlemen, we got some sign-up sheets. If you want to speak on behalf of the bill, if you'll come up on, how many sheets you got up there? One or two, three? There's one. Okay, if you'll just tell us which bill you want to speak on, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we need one more, don't we? 4 or 7. I think so. If you can find it. We need one more member to have a quorum, so any of you know where one of our members are, you can go get them. Issue.
Here we go.
All right, Robert.
You just made 4.
That's all right. We're just glad you showed up. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for singing Happy Birthday. And
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
oh my goodness. Okay, thank you. Is that from Georgia Gwinnett?
Oh, yes, sir. We baked it this morning.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Looks red and black to me, Mr. Chairman.
It might be.
Georgia Tech sent me a card and gave me a present, so they figured out due process. Isn't that right, Dean? Okay. Hadn't heard from anybody else yet. Okay. All right, we're going to hear substitute House Bill 54, and I think Chairman Powell is going to present it on behalf of Representative Waits, who has been deployed somewhere on security. And you can go right down there and sit there, Chairman Powell. This is old Rules meeting room. I don't know if you remember that or not, but.
Well, quite frankly, Mr. Chairman, I've never had the honor to testify in front of this committee.
Yeah?
And I knew it shocks most people I'm not up here to bash the Board of Regents today.
Are you feeling okay?
Pull the mic to you. Pull the mic. What would you bash them about?
Let us take up House Bill 54, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. I'm filling in for Representative Waits. She's been called away on business and will be out of town for a few days. Last year she had introduced this bill. I'm the second signer of this bill. It's a very simple bill that, we currently have a scholarship program that's operated through the Georgia Student Finance Authority for the children of officers who died in the line of duty. This would be just a venue for those type of scholarships. And what she's proposing on this is that we add $1 checkoff on driver's license and income tax. Strictly voluntary, doesn't have a fiscal note to it. There's never enough money, probably in all honesty, to go around. The criteria before you ask is $2,000 per year for an approved student, the child of one of these fallen heroes that serve our state so well. $8,000 lifetime cap. So let me get that out of the way before you ask that question. But as I said, it's just strictly straight up and down $1 checkoff on driver's licenses and income tax refunds.
Okay, questions? Representative Kelly?
I just certainly supportive of the idea. I just want to make sure I completely understand it. With
So any student, and you're just going to divide the money up equally? Is that how they'll do it? Everyone that'll apply, or how does it work?
Right now, that it's called the Georgia Law Enforcement Personnel Dependents Grant. It's administered by the Student Finance Commission. And as I understand that this was in the older days, it used to rely on a standalone direct appropriation that we put into it. The Department of Revenue handles the money. They do the fiscal note on it. They report back to the legislature on funds that are available, and it's appropriated likewise. It goes through the Student Finance Commission. They decide the criteria based on that student. If the student's a child, they do all of that word work, the work on that background check, and they decide whether that child is eligible.
Do all students get the same amount of money?
My understanding that it's $2,000 a year, $8,000 lifetime cap.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Representative Garner, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're seeing a substitute to the original House Bill 54. We don't have a copy of the original bill in our folder. So would you mind telling us what changes have been made, and if
My understanding that the only change this bill passed out of this committee, I understand, last year, and was held and it didn't make it time to get through the Rules Committee. And I've got that substitute, and the substitute you're working from is LC 401072S. And as I understand, the only change to that, and what I was going to suggest, was to be on line 17. It would have gone into effect, the version y'all passed last year went into effect January 1st of 2016, which is already passed. This new substitute changes it to January the 1st, 2017. Moves it forward a year since it didn't pass last year.
And that's the only change that has been made?
I have only received this substitute myself.
It would be helpful.
Let the Legislative Council make a comment. You want to use the mic right here?
No, that's fine. I can just do.
We need you on the mic.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I know. So we made the change that was referenced on line 17 to update the date. That same change was made on line 33 to update the date there. And then she wanted to give it a short title, and that's section 1. So now it's going to be cited as the Sean Smiley Act. Those are the only changes.
Basically the same bill as y'all passed last year.
Right.
Thank you for that information. Maybe in the future it would be helpful to me if we could see the original. I'd feel more comfortable. I'm not questioning the answer, but thank you.
Okay, Representative Dickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman, for bringing that. Got a question. If this bill were to pass and contributions exceeded what might be spent on a yearly basis, is there any provisions for what to do with the excess funds or anything? If that were to happen, I don't know if that were to happen, but
I believe, my good friend, you're on the Appropriations Committee, that the same committee I serve on. If reported by revenue there's an excess of funds, I'm sure that we would appropriate that back and make more funds available to these students.
okay. Also, Mr. Chairman, if I may, it's lots of private organizations throughout the state that handle scholarships for fallen people this bill is trying to cover. I'm a member of a Shield Club in Bibb County that probably been in existence 75 years, that we pay in to take care of financial assistance education for those, and I know of others throughout the state too. So don't think it's some of these needs are not being met on a private basis also, but good bill.
Okay. I don't see any more questions, Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, at the proper time, I would like to. I've got a couple of guests that would be just very brief. If
Sure.
you would like to, if you'd entertain that.
Sure, I've got a sign-up sheet over here. Did they sign up?
I don't think they did sign up.
Okay.
I have Sheriff Janice Magnum from Jackson County,
Okay.
and I have Tina Thomas, the wife of Sheriff Stevie Thomas, and their grandchild.
Okay.
Talia from Franklin County. Talia, father passed away, was killed in a traffic accident in the commission of his duties roughly a year ago.
Okay.
And I just wanted to recognize them and see if they might want to just say a word.
Sure.
Because
Which
this
one
child
wants to go
was certainly-
first?
Dana?
Sheriff? Okay. If you'll just, for the record, identify who you are again and where you're sheriff and all that.
Yes, sir. My name's Janice Mangum, and I'm the sheriff in Jackson County, Georgia. Deputy Cruz Thomas was a full-time employee of mine, full-time deputy, but worked part-time for his father, Sheriff Steve Thomas, in Franklin County, and was working for Sheriff Thomas when his accident happened and he lost his life. Talia Tay, we call her, it was 8 months old at the time. So I, along with many other sheriffs, and Sheriff Thomas is out of town, support this bill because of survivors like Talia and Tay. And I just met Miss Smiley. I think she's going to speak. But that's why we're in support of this bill to take care of these children.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, Miss Smiley.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee. I'm Tara Smiley. My husband, Sean Smiley, was killed in the line of duty November 3rd, 2012, in a helicopter crash, assisting in the search of a runaway child. And I am obviously in support of the bill. I have 3 children who will at one time be in, all 3 of them will be in college over a 7-year period, 3 of them at one time. So you can imagine the stress that would be financially. And to speak to the legal shield, it's my understanding that the officer had to be a member of the legal shield in order to receive those benefits, and my husband was not a member. So those private funds would not apply to me. This would be a huge help for myself, my 3 children, and other children of fallen officers.
We got a question here. Is that number
Questions
2?
for me?
Is that you, Chairman Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, and again, not necessarily a question for, our speaker here, but more of a question regarding the bill. Now, I don't know if you want me to wait and follow.
Yeah, you can wait. Just a
Okay.
minute. Be good. Okay. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And who is the other one, Chairman Powell? She's not going to speak. Okay. All right, Terry Norris, you want to speak?
Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, we support the bill. We all know that in the past decades, law enforcement has come under fire more and more and more and more. We believe the public, all of us, support our men and women of law enforcement, and this certainly helps those who give their life in the line of duty and their children. It's kind of interesting. I did a tiny bit of research today, and on the officer down page, on February the 9th, 1920, for an example, Officer Malcolm C. Collins was killed in the line of duty in Albany, Georgia. There are stats like that every day, every year. And in fact, this last year there were, in Georgia, throughout the nation, there were 129 officers killed in the line of duty. Those are a lot of families, and a lot of families in need. In our state, unfortunately, we tied New York and a couple other states. We had 9 officers killed in the line of duty last year. So appreciate the consideration of this committee, and as well as, if you looked at the bill, it also includes officers from firefighter families and other aspects of public safety. So thank you so much for a minute.
Okay, thank you. Tina Thomas? None? Okay. Janice Mangum? That was you? Okay. Mike, you want to say something? Mike Mitchell?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you. Good afternoon. Just
tell them everybody who you're with.
I'm Mike Mitchell with the Department of Driver Services.
Okay.
And just one very minor request from our budget director, adding in specific verbiage into the statute about the $1 collection. I don't think the $1 is specifically mentioned, but that would make it consistent with collection that we do for the blindness donation.
Did you hear that?
I heard it. You want me to?
Yeah, you probably need to speak on it. What mic number is that? 4. Okay.
And just to clear things up, right now it could be more than $1. It's up to and beyond the whatever you would get back in your tax refund. So if it's the will of the committee to limit it to $1, that's fine. But the legislation right now actually allows for the donee to donate as much as really as they want.
That's on the tax side. He's
Right.
talking about on the driver's fee.
Okay, so you want to limit that to just
Well,
the $1?
It's the way our accounting works. We try to have all of our collections and the fees that we take in whole dollar amounts.
Okay.
So, I mean, any amount is fine if we can just make it a whole dollar amount.
Okay. You guys want to move forward, then I'll work on some language in the interim and give you something.
Okay.
To a certain amount, as long as it's even dollars.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Would I suggest, would it be out of order if I suggested put a $5 or $10 limit instead of just $1, as long as it's on even dollar amounts?
I don't have a problem with this. I think the rest of the committee will need to decide that too. Anybody want to propose anything? What's your number? Witness two?
One,
Okay.
maybe one. Witness two. Okay. So, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read and catch up here, but on your driver's license, you would make a donation of, you're saying up to $5 or $10? Is that right?
Let the driver decide if it's $1, $2, $5, or whatever.
Are there others on there that are dollar donations? I mean, I know that we have other things you can do on your driver's license, but there are other dollar donations? This would be new?
The only one that immediately comes to mind is for the blindness donation.
And how much is
That's
that?
$1. That's $1.
Sure.
46.
Okay.
Got another
Just needed
question
to know.
here. Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I'm a little bit confused. Mr. Mitchell, I thought I understood you saying that you're addressing the administrative fee that your department would charge for handling this. Is that the fee you're referring to?
No, sir. It would be the donation that the customer
full
makes.
amount of the donation itself.
Correct.
You
Correct.
just want to see it on a full dollar amount.
Correct. That way we're not having to deal with pennies, so to speak.
Thank you.
It just makes it a lot easier for our accountants.
Understood. Thank you.
Chairman Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I guess along the lines of Representative Williams' last question, sort of the topic, and I know in Ways and Means we often see some of these bills where we're allowing Department of Revenue to act as, I guess, a middle person in collecting these charitable contributions and then distributing them out. But we've typically taken a policy that we want to make sure that there's a allowance for a reasonable fee for the cost of the department to do this, because quite frankly we have piled on. I don't know if the department is here but I didn't see anything in the bill, and I know usually we have something, or we've had some things in our bills, if I'm not mistaken. And again, it's reasonable. There is a cost to it. We don't want to sit here and burden, but again, the underlying bill is great. Also, I have no problems with that. It's just I want to make sure that we keep pulling and pushing from different.
Yeah, we're going to hear from the Department of Revenue. Okay.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, who's number 2? You done? Okay, Department of Revenue, if you'll come to the mic and identify yourself and tell us how you feel.
I'm John Foster with the Department of Revenue. I'm going to address kind of the first part of the bill that deals with the income tax return form. We have maybe 8 or 9 other types of, we call them checkoffs, the taxpayer can check off. It's kind of addressing first some of the things that have already come up. Our forms don't even allow pennies to be entered, so it's not really an issue for us. You'd have to give a whole dollar. It would actually be easier for us if they could just choose what they want to give as opposed to a specified amount, because that's how all the other ones work. So it would just add some complexity that we haven't really had to deal with. Secondly, as far as our costs, about half of these allow us to retain up to $50,000 to administer the program. Historically, we've only retained $25,000, and generally it's been up to the legislature whether they want to insert that language to allow us to recoup some of the cost. That's about all we have to say. Are there any questions?
Any questions from anybody? Representative Dick?
Yes. With your knowledge of the experience with the other checkoffs, have you got any guesstimate on what this might raise in a year?
I don't think I have those numbers. We could certainly get those for you. They've been pulled before. I just don't have them off the top
So
of my head.
you don't 10,000, 100,000?
If you want me to ballpark,
Yeah.
anywhere from 100 to 500,000, something like that,
Okay.
is what I seem to recall off the top of my head. But
I've got another question for the author,
Okay.
if that's appropriate.
Well, are you finished
Please.
with your statement?
yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Chairman Powell?
Taking into account of what we might raise, have you any estimate of what the annual cost of this, providing these funds might be? I'm just.
I have no idea. My belief is that the Revenue Department always reports back to the General Assembly and Appropriations, so we know how much money is available, and then we basically shift that over in a line item to this to the Student Finance Commission.
So it's nobody in the state now keeping up with how many dependents have fallen.
The Student Finance Commission would be.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't you come on up, President Chastain, and
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Dickey, we administer the program currently, and I don't think we would have an exhaustive list of how many students this might impact. But last year, in FY15, we had 27 students who received the award. We had 20 that we turned away. That was our budget was $400,000 in FY15. So in FY16, the governor increased the budget for this program to $600,000, and we are, I don't have the FY16 numbers. I hate to correct the representative, but the previous program served, I think it was $2,000 a year. Now it's actually up to the cost of attendance with a cap of $18,000 a year. So it's definitely a generous program. But last year we served 27 students.
Nice correction, thank you.
That was a good one, right?
okay, we have Representative Bentley. Do you still have a question? What number are you, 4?
It's kind of for you too. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just kind of adding on to what Representative Dickey was saying, because everyone here know that I represent a lot of small rural communities, and I have a Fort Valley State University in my district. So I'm just want to be really understanding on how we're going to really know how the money is going to be distributed. Once it's accumulated, how would these students in these other counties across the state know to even apply for this, and how we know how to distribute the money to the students equally?
Well, we certainly now work with all the financial aid offices in the state to make sure that they're aware of the program. It is a first-come, first-served basis, and we also will work and can even do a better job of working with our various law enforcement groups and private groups that might be able to get the word out about the program.
Okay. All righty. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Who else is that you, Representative Gardner?
My question was about the criteria for distribution of the money, and it's just whoever gets their application in first till the money runs out.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We got Representative Kelly.
If someone gets it 1 year, are they automatically set to get it for the next 3 years?
That's a good
Do you
question.
apply once, or do you have to apply every year?
I believe you have to apply every year. I can look that up. It's probably somewhere in here,
Okay.
Representative. I'll get you an answer before the end of the. But usually you have to apply each year.
Okay.
Okay. You have a proposed amendment too.
When the time's right.
Why don't you go ahead and mention it?
So I would, just getting back to what we talked about, one with the concerns from Mike, and then also addressing Chairman Powell's desire to have it up to $10. So on line 35, after voluntary contributions, insert the language up to $10, provided, however, the voluntary contribution shall be made in whole dollar increments. That's it.
Okay. Any discussion on that?
We need to move to pass on the deal.
Yeah. When we do do pass on the amendment. You got a question, Representative Williams?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, I got a question here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question on the proposed amendment. I guess I'm not clear on why we would be limiting a citizen taxpayer's willingness to make a voluntary contribution, why we would be capping that at $10. If they wanted to make a $100 donation, why would we cap it at any level?
I was just doing I think they do $1 now on most of their checkoff boxes now. And Chairman Powell said they do suggested up to 10. I'm fine with taking that out as long as it doesn't. I mean, I just do that based off of that's what I thought.
I think
so we
the
could just
department
say,
said it would simplify it. Isn't that what you said, Mike?
Regardless of the amount, if it's just a whole dollar amount, it would make a lot of
Rather than any amount.
well, then I'll amend it to strike up to $10 and then just put provided, however, voluntary contributions shall be made in whole dollar increments.
Is that what you, Chairman? Okay.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, thank you.
Okay, let's vote on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Okay. Okay, on the bill itself, I hear a motion.
Do pass.
Got a motion, I hear a second.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second on a substitute to House Bill 54 as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And committee members and the law enforcement post-certified officers of this state. Appreciate y'all. And I do too, Mr. Chairman.
Are you going to send us the rules yourself, Chairman Powell?
I'm not sure when Representative Waits will be back, but just as soon as y'all make it
Okay.
eligible, then
Okay.
we'll be moving on.
All right. Thank you. Okay, next bill. What is our next bill? Well, we're listening to HB 6, Representative Darshawn Kendrick. And you have a substitute also, so
Yes, it's LC 336448S.
okay. You may proceed.
Thank you. This is my 5th hearing, so it's good to see you all again. This is HB 6 that was held over from last year. And what it would do would allow students that make A's in advanced level STEM classes, because we made a few changes to the underlying bill that I'll go over. But advanced level classes, when students make an A in those classes, they'll be able to get the full weight of hope. Right now, you get extra credit if you take an advanced level class, which is an AP class or international baccalaureate class, or you do a dual enrollment class. But because of the way that the Hope statute is structured, if you make an A in one of those classes, you're capped at the amount that you can receive towards Hope, and it's just it's something that's in the statute, so it ties the hand of the commission, and they're not allowed to award the students that make A's in those advanced level classes the additional weight for taking those harder level classes. And so it's a very narrow bill. It would only affect those that make A's in those advanced level classes. And you should have received a copy of not only a cheat sheet that I tried to give out, but also the updated impact analysis. So last year, this would have covered all advanced level classes. But I was inspired by Representative Jan Jones's bill that she passed the other day that focused on STEM. And so one of the things I did was go back to Legislative Council and said if we can't focus on all of the advanced level courses, let's at least give this additional credit towards STEM classes. And so this, you'll see from the updated impact analysis that the cost is severely cheaper if we focus on giving this weighted credit to STEM classes. It would impact 536 students, and this was provided by the commission, and it has the figures through FY 2019, but that is the bill in a nutshell, and I know that you have a few people that are signed up to speak to it, including a constituent.
See, any questions from the author? Okay, we'll listen to, is it Angela Venna? Is that how you pronounce her name? Okay. Just tell us who you are and why you're here. And
Hi, I'm Angela Vigna. I live in Gwinnett County. I have four children. The reason I'm here is because I've emailed all of y'all at least once. The change in this bill won't. My children will not be impacted by this. But back in 2011, how it came about with getting interested in this issue is that 2011 the Hope Scholarship was changed a lot. I had 4 children that were at just about every stage of Hope, the changes that were being made. I had 2 already in college, 1 on Fix for 4, 1 not on Fix for 4, 1 a high school junior, 1 a high school freshman. So at that time, I had to really look at it because they're making changes. And I looked into it, and prior to the Hope changes, the GPA didn't really matter as much. So you didn't really, an A, not getting half a point for an A in an advanced class really didn't impact your grade because it was a 3.0. Most of those kids had way above. I mean, back then, all I knew was my kids had more than the 3.0, and that was fine. They got Hope Scholarship. So when I started checking into it, I realized when I was trying to figure out what their Hope GPA would be, I realized, wait a second, they're not getting a half a point for an A in this class. So that's when I started looking at it. I actually, back in 2011, before the Hope Law was revised, I contacted the governor's office. I talked to people. I tried to get it changed when they were making changes, but it didn't work out. Then life goes on. I didn't really get in. Then finally I decided, well, it's been a while. I'll check with my representative. What does she think? So she looked at it and said she agreed, that it doesn't make sense to not get a half a credit for extra credit for an A. To me, it's like if you're an employer and you do your annual review and you rate people, and the highest you can get on your rating is a 4. So you give it. So some people get a 1, some people get a 2, some people get a 3, some people get a 4. Everybody gets a raise except the ones who make the 4. So to me, that doesn't make sense. That you're not going to give the people who work the hardest in the hardest classes the extra half a point. I understand money's involved and all that, but in 2013 there was money found to add dual enrollment classes. And just this year, 2 other bills have come out of this committee that's going to add a little bit more money too. So they found that you found the money. The money was found for those, and to me it was just, like I said, my kids aren't impacted. 2 of them already graduated. They got the Zell Miller Scholarship. My seniors got the Zell Miller Scholarship. It doesn't affect them. My youngest, well, he's a boy, and I'm sorry, but he has regular Hope. so please don't let him see this. But so anyway, I'm just saying it doesn't affect my children, but I really feel strongly about this bill because it's for the children that may not even realize that they aren't getting the half a credit because they haven't looked into checking out how their GPA is figured. They may not realize that extra half a point would make them get the Zell Miller Scholarship, which is a big deal, especially at Georgia Tech and Georgia State and University of Georgia. So that's. Hope you
Any questions for her? Anybody? Okay. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, President Tricia Chastain, I think you were going to make some comments on it. You're a busy president today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and happy birthday. We provided an updated fiscal analysis to Representative Kendrick, which I believe all of you have, and so I'm happy to answer any questions. We don't have a position on the bill. We have, since the beginning of Hope, just it's been on a 4.0 scale, so that would be the change here. And as you can see from the fiscal analysis, the majority of these students, in the first year, we estimate 536 impacted. 10 of those would go from non-Hope to Hope. 526 would go from Hope to Zell Miller, so that's where you see the biggest. These are students that are on the bubble that with this extra weight would move mostly from Hope to Zell. And when it's fully, obviously it would be scaled in as new cohorts come in. By FY19, we anticipate a $5 million additional cost to the program. We did base this on last year's numbers. I would say that with Move On When Ready, we are seeing a lot more students take dual enrollment courses. So I think this is the best analysis we can give at this time.
Okay. Any questions from her? I was going to ask you this. There's 1.4 million already for FY 2016. You know what it says?
Right, and that should be changed to 17. I don't think we changed the fiscal years when we gave her the updated analysis.
Okay.
It should say 17, 18, 19, 20.
Okay.
Apologize for that. This is actually not a fiscal note. This is just analysis we gave
Right.
to the author.
Well, the other fiscal note you had, Representative Kendrick, was what, 23 million? Wasn't it 23? Or?
Yeah, but that was before we made the STEM change.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything on this bill? Okay. The mood of the committee. Representative Carter.
I'd be happy to move do pass.
Okay, got a motion. Got a second. Any other discussion from anybody? Okay, all in favor? Oh, sure.
So, how do we fund it?
Why don't you use your mic, please?
How do we fund that? How do we come up with that money?
What are you on? What mic number are you? All right.
Witness two.
Okay.
And we might want to get one because 2 is kind of making a lot of noise. If you want to
Okay, I'll turn it off.
So, where does that money come from?
That'd be based on what's budgeted, I'm sure, so.
So right now it would exist if appropriated? Is that?
Correct.
Before we were giving it, before we made changes last year, it was going to be within the discretion of the commission, and they weren't the responsibility. So we took it back to the General Assembly. They have to appropriate those funds before it could be done. They will be able to even appropriate those funds.
Have we found a place to get those funds? I mean, have you talked with Chairman Earhart or England about where we pull those funds from? I'm just trying to understand it.
I have mentioned it to them, but I was trying to wait until there was something sort of substantive to talk to them about if I was able to get this through.
So the bill with the reality that it might not move forward because there might not be funding for it, or it might be passed, but still, I mean, because that does happen, but that there still might not be funding. So it's not
right.
That's the reality.
Right, but again, this wouldn't even come into play unless the General Assembly appropriated it.
Correct.
Anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, bill passes.
Thank you. Thank you, committee.
All right. All right, Representative Wilkerson, I think is. And your House Bill 542. We don't have a substitute on you, correct?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I bring to you House Bill 542. It's LC 400844. And what this does is, I was looking at 529 plans, and Georgia, along with 48 other states, participates in 529 plans. It's a great program, allows parents and families to save for college education for their children, grandchildren, family members. But what I found is that the majority of the folks using it are those that make over $100,000. And actually, according to a 2012 study by the Government Accounting Office, 47% of the families actually make over $150,000. So while it's a great program, its benefit is kind of limited. So I started looking at states that actually have what's called a matching program, and what that does is it allows us to partner with families to encourage our lower to moderate income families to save for college education. So if a family member's looking at getting a child a Christmas gift or some other kind of gift, and they may put some money aside for them in a college savings plan, especially if they know it can be multiplied, have that multiply factor. 10 states currently do this in some form or fashion, and so what I did was, it's tailored that if you make less than $30,000 a year, for every dollar you put away, the state would match 2 to 1, up to $500 a year. And if you don't go to college, the money goes back to the state. If you make between $30,000 and $60,000 per year as a family income, adjusted gross income, the state would match 1 to 1, up to $500 per year. So what this does, like I said, is it allows us to partner with families, encourage savings, so that people will, put some skin in the game, and hopefully we'll get more kids going to secondary education, because as you know, you can't really do much with unless you have some type of postgraduate degree, whether it be college or a trade school. As far as the specifics, it would be allocated. We would allow the state Student Finance Commission to develop the program, and the contributions would be distributed based on when it comes in, the lowest income would basically get it first. So your neediest would get it first, and then once funds are expended, that's it for the year. So it would be based on either appropriations for the General Assembly, whatever we appropriate that year, or we can also develop a program where it would allow private individuals to donate to a fund. At this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I think it's important to say that Representative Wilkerson has worked on this, and he's a CPA, isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So he's worked on it and figured out all the numbers.
So.
Okay. Any questions from anybody? Okay.
So my only question would be that same thing. We would pass this, but it would be only possible to actually do it if it was
correct. It would be based on appropriations from us. So what it does, it allows us to have that ability that if the economy is doing well and we see that it's a program that we want to start off as a trial period, we can do that. But it would be strictly based on appropriations or private funding. So all we're doing is giving us ability to do it.
And I would say I'm just using an abundance of caution. I know how hard it is, and I know we feel we're all doing better, but there are a lot of people in here that actually serve on appropriations. We all know it's very hard to find those dollars and to move them around through our state. So I have concerns on these. Certainly think we need to move them, let them go forward if that's the will of the committee. But it's hard to give that hope for something that might not be able to come to someone. I deal with it an awful lot in my part of the budget, so I'm sort of cautious.
No, and thank you for that, and I'm very aware of that, and that's why I try to tailor it. I think we have some recent numbers that we asked I guess the Student Finance Commission asked people that are signing up for the first time, and we're still seeing the same numbers in Georgia. I think 83% at least of people that were signing up that volunteer the information make over $75,000 a year. So if we're going to try to continue to move the state, like I said, it would be, this just gives us that ability to do that if we decide to. But thank you.
Okay. Got you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question revolves around, and this may be handled in the 521 statute federally. Let's say that you make very little money for 5 years and then you have a good year. Would this lead to an opportunity to take advantage of the program? Let's just say hypothetically I made no money for 5 years and then I made $1 million one year. I'd have the state matching for the 5 years, and then of course I wouldn't have it that one good year. Is there a way to prevent that, or is that just how it works?
There's nothing to address that really, and because typically you don't see that much movement. But what it does do is for those years that you were making less than $60,000, it does allow that match. But if for some reason, like I said, the economy goes up and down, you would not qualify for those other years. But hopefully what will happen is that you will then take advantage of the tax deduction, because right now, if you're making less than $60,000 a year, you may not take advantage of that $2,000 state deduction you get. So you're not putting into the plan. But hopefully what happens is if you do move up into that bucket, you already have money in there. And once you see money in account, typically people feel a little bit better about putting more money in the account. And so the year that you're doing well, you may put the money in the account and get that $2,000 state deduction along with your federal. So, but there is no look back to say now that you're doing well, we're going to get the money back. Yeah. But thank you.
Okay, Representative Gardner, is that you?
So I'm looking at the line 109, Representative Wilkerson.
Yes.
So in line 109.
Yes.
Tell me exactly what that means.
What that means is you're capped at $500 per year. So if for whatever reason you decide to put $500 or $600 in, you're only going to get matched up to the first $500. So that caps the amount that possibly can go to each individual person per year. So if you put in $250, you make below $30,000, you'll get matched up to $500, but that's it.
Okay, so I was reading it'll be matched equal to the amount contributed, except that it won't.
Matching contributions shall not exceed $500 per year.
Okay.
So in those good years where you're putting more money in, you're still only going to get $500 from the state maximum. Thank you.
Let's see, President Chastain, I think we need you back up here again, don't we?
Yeah, you can come.
Yeah.
It's my big day, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
You want me to just speak to the bill? Sure. Well, we administer the this program for the state. It's obviously a great program. We have about 135,000 beneficiaries of the program, or account holders. About 1.8 billion in assets under management. Tia Kreft does all the management of the funds. I think, as Representative Wilkerson said, we don't have a position on the bill. There are plenty of states who have tried things like this. In Nevada, they give an open account for every newborn child, but put $25 in it. So that's one model. And in California, I know they have a 529 day, and all contributions up to a certain amount on that particular day are matched. So this is something that I know the representative has done a lot of research on. And like I said, I think there's been varied success across the country on it.
Well, a question, Chairman Knight was talking about a physical note. I know, Representative Wilkinson, you're being the CPA. What's the physical impact? Do you have any idea?
The fiscal, at this point we don't know, and it would basically be based on whatever we appropriate. So if we don't appropriate it, then there is no impact. And,
okay.
And you could have 100 families that take advantage of it. You could have, 500, but I don't know if you have a better idea.
We, as you mentioned, we ask when people sign up, we have a series of optional questions that we ask them, how they found out about the plan, their relationship to the beneficiary. One of them is income, and we have strands of income levels that we ask them, but it's an optional question, so I don't think that would be a good indicator of the number of families that fall in different income brackets. So I don't know that we could estimate the fiscal impact with that information.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Well, we got a question. Who'd you got it for? Okay.
Excuse me. Do we know anything about the experience in other states in terms of how much money or how % sign up? Or
you said you looked at some others. I don't have anything today. I certainly could provide some information to the committee at a later date.
Georgia State did a study, and actually it really does vary by state. But what states are doing is they're really trying to encourage people to save for college, but there's no guarantee that you're going to have, what that number will be. Like I said, they're doing it just to show the importance of post-secondary education, showing that, we're going to partner with you like we do on so many other things, but there really isn't we expect a 10% increase or a 20% increase because we really don't know. So much depends on how the economy's doing and how we get the word out.
Right.
Other states do things where once, if the child's born, you make sure you get it out. I know we do a program where we give out awards each year, I guess, and you have pictures of the newborns, and you
right.
should get to do that. But we have different programs that we're really trying to encourage people to save for college because I think the only way that we'll get there is if we encourage it, both through words as well as, action sometimes.
Thank you.
Tell the committee who the company is you do the savings scholarship plans with. What company?
Tia Kreft.
What's the name of them?
Tia Kreft.
Tia Kreft. And they're located where?
They're a financial management company. I believe their headquarters is in Chicago.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. TIA Kreft. They actually run 529 direct sold state 529 plans for about 9 states.
Okay.
So they're very good.
We're one of the states that we only have the one company, right?
Right.
There's
we
no
only
other
have a direct
independents
sold
or
plan.
private. Okay.
So they manage the funds.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, move to the committee. Okay, I've got a motion. Here's a second. Okay, I got a motion, second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay. Bill passes.
Thank you, committee.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the meeting for the day, and thank you for attending.